Okay, let me introduce you again, Chloé, sorry. Chloé is going to present online and her presentation is called Pencil on Plaster in the studio of Auguste Rodin. She's a former student of the École du Louvre, is specializing in the study of Occidental sculpture. Since 2017, she is curator of the Musée Rodin, in charge of the sculptures collection, working especially on the technical facet of Rodin sculpture. Now, you can share.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm sorry. Is everything okay?
Yes, very well.
Okay, thanks. So, good evening. First, I would like to thank the organizing committee for selecting my submission. I'm very happy to be with you, even if online. Apologize for my English. I will do all my best to be understood by everybody. My paper is much more based on my experience as a curator of the sculpture collection at the Musée Rodin than on a scholar basis. The sculptures collection at the Musée Rodin comes in major part from the donation made by the artist to the French state in 1916 and mainly consists of contents of his studio. Therefore, the collection is made of between 4,500 and 5,000 plasters. That's why working in that museum offers a daily contact with plasters. Before beginning, I would just like to highlight the research of Marine Roux about the writing of Auguste Rodin on the work, on the surface of the work that she made for a master's degree in art history at the École du Louvre in 2017. She made a complete census of Rodin's inscriptions on the sculptures of this collection and listed them. Her work had been and still is extremely useful. So, as you know, as in any sculptor's studio, the plaster casts are made by the molders and not by the artist himself. Plaster casts are, first of all, transitional objects between the initial model and the final work. They play this transitional part thanks to the extraordinary reproduction capacity of the plaster. In our collection, a quite substantial number of plaster casts have pencil marks on them. These marks make those plasters unique, mesmerize our contemporary eye, and seem to reveal an unconventional creator. But in fact, a lot of the pencil's writing can be understood in the setting of the studio. There are indications for work and for assistance for molders. Here, the use of pencil reveals, in fact, the transitional status of plaster. But some of them reveal also the creative inspiration of the artist. Pencil on plaster is also a concern for the conservation, of course. From the preservation and conservation point of view, the uniqueness of those pieces is a crucial aspect. Thus, the pencil marks on the plaster are a perfect illustration of the status of plaster between creation and reproduction. With at any time with a few examples of our collection, I will develop my my paper. So first, I will show you some examples of indications by assistance or for further development of the work, what I call proof of the transitional material. That's why pencil of the sculpture in the setting of the studio. Pencil marks are well known, of course, on models for marble. The carving technique with the mise au point requires the marking of points to be copied on the marble. Thus, a model for marble is covered with crosses and circles made by a pencil. by an assistant. You have here a plaster cast made from the first marble of the subject, the kiss, so one of the most famous subjects of the artist. Then the marble cast had been reused as a model for a new marble. So you can see little crosses on all the surface. As for a marble, the creation of a monument requires a plaster model. It is particularly interesting because it shows the creative process in progress. I decided to show you this model for a monument to glorify labor, a monument never achieved. So we only have the maquette. On the bottom of the left side, there is a drawing by Rodin. You can see an overhanging figure. And so this is probably a reflection for a further relief or a fresco or a mosaic showing a genius of labor. I want to show you now something more like a note for later for the artist. You have here a portrait of Helene von Nostitz, a German aristocrat, on a very, very close friend of Rodin. He made her portrait, and we still have many, many copies of it in our collection. And one of them, the word colonne and low relief are written. These inscriptions reveal probably a further development that we don't know, and maybe that never existed. Perhaps Rodin sought to present a portrait of a friend on a column, as he made, for example, for other portraits. You have the example of Madame Fenaille. On the hair, you can also see curved lines drawn in the hair. It gives this plaster a very contemporary look, but it is a little bit an illusion. It is much more a working indication, probably to think how to materialize the hair in a next version. I want to show you now inscriptions which are more proofs of a material for creation. Because plaster cast is a transitional step, this is one of the main materials for creation. It is particularly true with Rodin, who not only modeled the first model in clay, then let molders and assistants proceed, but worked a lot himself on the plaster cast and with the plaster. As Natasha Ruiz Gomez still explained in the presentation, from the mid-80s onwards, Rodin created numerous themes using the assemblage technique. In doing so, he replaced traditional modeling with a faster technique, which allowed him to express his thought more immediately. A lot of assemblages were inscriptions evoking title or at least subjects for this work. Absolution, so that you already see with thanks to Natasha Ruiz Gomez, so I don't go back on the process of this creation of this assemblage. But what is important for me is that this subject and this subject are very two violent subjects. And when those sculptures are put together and wrapped in a large drape, the meaning of the figure completely changes. The group is now quiet, pacified, showing a gentle kiss. And on the left side of the base, Rodin wrote the word absolution, so the forgiveness of sins. In this example, you also have like a title. On the forearm of the phonus, so it's a little bit more difficult to read, you have the word l'espérance court, so hope runs. This is much more enigmatic as designation, but maybe it shows the humanity's headlong rush for hope. In the third case, it's a little bit different. This figure is made with a living body and the head that Rodin used in a lot of assemblage. This head, known as the head of the Slavic woman. The figure bears several inscriptions, including two objects for a leaning figure. So the inscriptions are just here. You see Betsab and mask, but I want to speak about that one. So Betsab, so it's a contraction of Bathsheba, seen by the King David as she was bathing, and Narcissus leaning over water. The coexistence of two possible subjects show that they come to Rodin after the fact, after the shape of the sculptures, and not before the creation. This last case is quite extreme because here Rodin used the plaster plate to draw a silhouette. You can read the word virgin, candle, probably iris, and fawn. The mention of fawn and the silhouette in profile can be related to the Russian dancer Nijinsky. I put a picture, who is particularly famous for the ballet The Afternoon of a Faun on the music of the French composer Claude Debussy. In the choreography, Nijinsky was inspired by ancient reliefs and the profile positions of the figure. So that's why we think that we have here a portrait of Nijinsky dancing. And we also know that Rodin was at the first representation of these ballets in Paris. Because of pencil marks, all these plasters are totally unique in this collection, of course, and offer evidences of the work in the studio. Conservation on this work must be particularly delicate. I would like to present 3 cases study with various solutions we recently tried with our conservators. The problem is that water remains the first tool to clean plaster. And of course, water removes pencil, so it's very complicated. Thus, pencil should be protected before the cleaning. I show you this example with this assemblage. There are several inscriptions as old inventory numbers that we also have to keep. And 2 inscriptions by Rodin. So you have here, 19th century and time. The inscription, both inscriptions were protected with a product named Clusel G, solubilized at 4% in ethanol. The Clusel is an adhesive, very low and reversible when dried. The surface was then cleaned with an agar-agar gel, so with water inside. The protection was removed by the agar-agar, and that avoided shine or too much intensification of the writing. The protection must be placed while looking through a binocular loop to perfectly match the pencil line, but it may always trap some dirt, which will make the pencil line look thicker after cleaning. And this is, of course, a problem for the general aspect of the work. That's why we try to find some solution without protection of the pencil. You have here a project for a monument. This work were an illegible inscription on the top and 3 areas of graffiti like that. The graffiti were certainly intended to indicate the location of decorations on the column, such as reliefs. The surface was very heterogeneous, and the aim of the intervention was to make the sculpture able to be displayed. So it was to be displayed. So how to find good cleaning? The conservator first cleaned the column with an extra soft Wishap eraser. So you have here the cleaning, the picture during the cleaning. The relative low level of cleaning obtained was then used as a guide for the rest of the restoration to have a quite homogeneous aspect. Last example, we go back with this Nijinsky drawing. This work was restored with a gel of a nanorestor range, which are composed of elastomeric and therefore polymerized nanoparticles. So this nanoparticles is much important to to have in mind. This creates nanopores. The gel is presented in the form of a plate, as you can see here. It is soaked in the cleaning agent of choice, in this case, water. Thanks to its structure, the gel has a high retention capacity for the product in which it is soaked, which then does not migrate into the surface to be cleaned. This makes it possible to clean pencil-covered surface safely. You have here a cleaning test with the gel, but it only works on plate surface because you see how the gel is. So in conclusion, I hope I have shown you how the use of pencil and plaster was a perfect example of its ambiguous status between creation and reproduction. And I would be very happy to hear any other feedback on cleaning plaster cast with pencil. I would like to thank the conservators Hélène Bluza, Agnès Cassio, Laure Chavannes, Guylaine Marie, and Pascal Roumégus, with whom we have recently worked on these issues. I also would like to dedicate this paper to Achim Borchardt-Jung, who recently passed away. He was behind the exhibition The Making of Rodin that we are currently presenting at the Tate Modern in London, an exhibition that focuses on Rodin's plaster casts and for which several of the works presented today have been studied and restored. Thank you for your attention.